Perfect. Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our February Asian Wonder Women event. We are talking today about how to travel as a solo woman. We have three very well-traveled women with us today on our panel. And so we are going to just chat a little bit about all of the different experiences we've had and get to know each other a little bit, and you can get to know us as well. So I think we'll start us off with talking a little bit about yourself, introduce yourself a little bit, and maybe the reason why you're excited to be with us and in the community today. And I will toss it to Jade to start us off.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Justine. So my name is Jade Chan. I'm a consultant with over a decade of experience in building better leaders and cultures in tech space and also education. I'm Taiwanese American, and my love for travel formed when I got to study abroad for a year in Taiwan. And it just made me fall in love with different cultures. And so I've solo traveled across the world to Taiwan, Chicago, Japan, Portugal, France, and some other places. And I'm really excited to be in community with these amazing women because I have a feeling they have some amazing stories to share, and just really empowered to see other Asian Wonder Women. I'm also a co-founder of Namaste to Ni Hao, which is a content creation company for travel and holistic health. And so I will share my Instagram, and I actually co-founded this with my husband, and we're going to be launching our blog soon. So I'm excited to share it with the AWW community. Thank you. Passing the mic to Kirsten.
10.
Please correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you can call me 10. It's fine. Because it's like kind of like a universal name. Everyone has a 10 in their like language. But anyway, hi guys. My name is 10, like the number. I'm currently on a mission to touch lives through sustainable, ethical, and accessible travel by embarking on a solo hitchhiking and hiking journey across the world, unsupported and with my Philippine passport. And as I go about traveling the world, I also make a point to give back to the communities that I meet along the way. A good chunk of my travels is very slow, but in that way I get to understand and gain a good grasp of the culture, the traditions, religion, language, and mostly everything, history, politics, music, art of every country that I go to. And I look for ways to give back to the communities that I meet and, these communities who have welcomed me. At present, I am currently in Ukraine, where I am volunteering as a teacher for an alternative learning school. And I am also raising funds for humanitarian and medical aid through my platform, Kirsten Chan, which has delivered life-saving medicine as well as food products to heavily bombarded areas in Ukraine and to temporarily occupied territories. So my belief in travel is that, as a solo female, it's one of the ways where we can take back our power. Women of the world started to just be a footnote in their husbands' passports, and we've come a long, long way from not being allowed to travel without a man and from not being allowed to even work or vote or gain rights to our own body. We have progressed, and I'm just so excited to see how far we've come with the women who are here today with us, especially as Asian women with different traditions, different cultural upbringings. I'm excited to hear our experiences, to have this friendly vibe, exchange of stories, and also to share our knowledge so that we can empower other Asian Wonder Women to follow in our footsteps and to keep paving the way for those who have yet to travel. So yeah, passing on the mic to Sint.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for hosting this Asian Wonder Woman. I'm Sint. I'm a former software engineer turned product manager. I've been in tech for over 7 years. And I have founded Fundata Labs, which is a product studio that helps companies build 0 to 1 products. For me, my love language is really that quote that says, "Let's book a flight and go." My love for travel, honestly, are one of the few things to really explore the world without waiting on people and to feel really empowered and confident, either by the culture, other people in the communities. And for me, being a part of Asian Wonder Women is really to make genuine connections and friendships with my fellow nomads, travelers around the world. I'm really inspired continuously to see people's different professions, as well as their travel journeys and also their lifestyle. It kind of like gets me out of the box thinking how we can adapt to certain situations and really grow outside our comfort zone. So I'm really like super happy to be a part of this community, and thank you for hosting this event.
Thank you, everybody. Wow, every time I host one of these, it never ceases to amaze me how incredible the people we find are, because everyone has a story to tell, everyone is on their own journey, everyone is doing something amazing. Whether it's big or small, I think it's really cool that we all get brought together through this community, so it's really wonderful. A little bit about me, I'll do the quickest little intro. I'm Justine, pronouns are she and her, located in Vancouver at the moment. Been traveling for the last 4 months, but I'm back home right now, and then I'm heading off for a little trip to Brazil soon. But I've been traveling because my company did mass layoffs in July, and since then I've been on this little travel journey. I'm not ready to go back to adulting just yet. So I've definitely been doing a lot of solo traveling as of late, and doing a lot of couch surfing as of late as well. So it's been a really cool experience, but I'm sure we will all get into that a little bit more as we continue this discussion. Kristen, will you tell us a little bit about when you took your first solo trip and why you did that? What motivated you to take that first trip?
Well, a lot of things. I remember when I was a kid, I used to cut out pictures of places like Paris, Rome, or Santorini, or Egypt, like Cairo specifically. And I would stick them in my journal. It's always been my dream to be a traveler. And I decided to pursue that right after I graduated university. So I was this college student who was saving up for a trip abroad because I knew something out there was waiting for me. And I think all the women here in our panel can relate to that, that when you say that when your heart and soul is not with you, it's elsewhere. And so I booked a flight to Cambodia. That was the first flight that I booked alone by myself overseas. And I started my journey running away from something. I wasn't happy back home. I had a lot of expectations. I mean, I know you girls can relate. Growing up in an Asian household, we're expected to have the traditional path of becoming a lawyer, doctor, engineer, whatever makes the most money, honestly, and whatever makes the family proud. And I had this big expectations from me. I was a star student. I was a perfect daughter. I did theater, I did chorale, I did dance, I did everything. Yet I did none of those for myself. And so booking that flight was the first thing that I've actually done for myself. And I realized it. And from there, I was only supposed to travel for a month. And I've been traveling for more than 5 years now, and I haven't gone home since. And for me, yeah, it's like, oh, my family keeps asking, like, when you're gonna come back home? And I'm like, no, I mean, it's just never going to happen. You would come home for a visit, but not to live there, because how can you come back when you've had the world, So yeah, I started out as a backpacker. Funny thing is, I started with just $700 for an entire year. And it was amazing how I made it work, how I didn't have a safety net. I didn't come from a high income family, but I found jobs online. I used my skills to be able to build the life of my dreams. And I'm still going strong. And it's such a wonderful journey to be able to not run away from something anymore, but to run towards something, passion, purpose, and, just passing on the kindness that I've received from all of these trips. So yeah, that was my first brush with, travel, or like as I say it, like the first bite of the travel bug.
Amazing, amazing. And it's true what you said, your resourcefulness, right? To be able to stretch your $700 and find other ways to find income on your way. People think that, yes, on one hand, when you travel, it can be from a place of privilege and being financially stable and able to do it, but also if you don't have that, there is a way to do it. There is a resourceful, there is like always another way to travel. So that's really cool that you've been able to make that work and make it work to plan your life the way you want it to work, right?
Exactly. And fun fact about me, the lowest that I've spent in a country for 1 month is $1.
Wow. This is a whole other story we're gonna have to dive into later.
For sure.
Jade, will you tell us a little bit about your first solo trip and what motivated you to go on that?
Yes. Wow, I loved hearing about Ten's story. Thank you so much for sharing that. You're a badass Asian Wonder Woman. Can't wait to hear more as well. So every solo trip for me has been a love story for myself and a gift to myself. So for me, my first solo trip was to Chicago, but I actually really wanted to share one of my most recent solo trips instead. So last year, I took a solo trip to France and Portugal by myself, and I'm married, but I really wanted to. It was a dream of mine for so long and I was waiting for my husband to get his passport stamped, and an opportunity came up, and I was like, I'm gonna go first. And I'll check things out, and then I'll bring you with me. And I was able to bring him later that year. So in France, I rented a car and I just drove on the highway, and I just did research a few hours before, and I found these little towns, like 5 little towns, a town that made most of the perfumes in the world, a little tiny town that's like a castle in the sky with the most gorgeous ocean views and beautiful art that's named as one of the most beautiful villages in France. And I just felt so empowered standing there and said, wow, I did this and I made it here by myself. And it's just so empowering. Every time I do a solo travel, everything is different in that new country, from how the key works, how it functions, to how the microwave. I spent like 30 minutes trying to turn on the microwave in France. And then I had to call the maid up. I'm so sorry, I don't know how to turn this on. And then even like the blinds are different, the bed is different. And it's just like, wow, the innovation of people from different cultures and backgrounds, the creativity, it's so different. And for me, it's the people you meet, and you find out about there's kindness everywhere in the world. People want to share their cultures. They want to feel included. They want their cultures to be appreciated. And so it really opened up different mindsets. And when you travel, your mindset is changed, and it changes what type of friends you have in your life, what type of energy you want to receive in your life, and even like what food you want to put in your body because of what you experience on the travel. And not to mention like the amount of flavors that you get to try in every country. So for me, this trip to France and Portugal was really important. One more fun thing in Portugal was I splurged and I rented a little, just one of the most beautiful places I've ever stayed at, right in the heart of Porto, Portugal. And I just went out every single day. Sometimes I would go to the train station by myself and just stand in the middle there and just be like, wow, I feel like I'm in Harry Potter, because this is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. So I would say that whether you are married or single, solo travel is a love story gift for yourself. It'll spark new dreams in you. It'll give you renewed purpose. It has for me every time. And each trip in each season of your life is going to serve a different purpose. So now I'm on a mission to inspire others to build their wealth, build their health, and travel. And so that's another reason why I started Namaste to Ni Hao with my husband. So it has sparked a new dream and essentially a second life for me. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that perspective. I think it's important that you named that even though you're partnered, it doesn't mean that you still can't do things solo, especially traveling. I think most people consider once you're partnered, you do everything together, but it's so important to have that separation. Not to get too deep into relationship discussions, but traveling solo can be done whether you're partnered or not. So I love that perspective. Thank you. Sint, will you also share your perspective on this question about your first solo trip and what motivated you to go?
Yeah, so my first full solo trip was actually, I was definitely a bit more older. I was 24, really just wanted to get out of Vancouver. Also like had the feeling of, oh my God, is like, I need to work somewhere else. I want to see how other people build products. I want to see how other cities are like, building this like amazing tech career. Where do I go? So I went to Oakland. Little did I know, I was like, oh, okay, Oakland's cheaper than SF. And that was where it was like interesting to see the first Airbnb I stayed in that had like 7 locked doors. And I was like, is this even like safe? And that kind of like sparked, the ambiguous adventureness in me to see the world without being so prepared, and also being able to survive and thrive. And I think that really got me, thinking about going to more solo traveler trips. I didn't even tell my family. So I have 3 brothers, only daughters, and my mom is a homestay mom, which, I really loved growing up. And I spent a lot of time with her. And she would always want to know where I am and things like that. So I booking that first flight to SF to really explore a new city on my own without any research. I remember I did post a post on the flight on Girls Love Travel, like, oh, what's the best eat in SF? And those were like that was like the only research I did. And I was like, okay, I'll figure it out how things go. And especially because it's a English speaking country, but it was really hard to like break out of that shell. Especially coming from a traditional family and who had a very close relationship with her parents. And it was just like, oh, I'm really sorry, I can't tell you where I'm gonna be at, because like in case they show up, because like I feel like my parents would be that type of parents who want to just like hang out all the time. So even like my own brother who lived in SF, he was like a little bit scared that I wouldn't tell him where I was. And it wasn't just like a rebellious thing. It was just mainly just to seek adventure and to explore and learn new things on my own and to survive and thrive. And then that really led me to working abroad in Europe a few months later, which, was another like adventure, but except this time it was with a purpose of like going for a job. So I feel like one solo trip after another has always led to more growth and more just being able to stand on my own 2 feet and being independent, and to be really smart and to like really understand like different people's like ways of doing things. And that really like translate a lot to working in different cultures, even at jobs, right? You learn to have more empathy, and then you learn to better communicate, and also better just like ways to connect with others. So I really feel like it's a very like translatable skill, and also really enjoy just the adventure on its own.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I think each of you have talked about some similar themes, and I like a lot of the words you used in talking about how when you solo travel, you have to be really smart, you have to be resourceful, makes you feel independent, you're feeling empowered. These are all themes that come from being a solo female traveler, and it kind of takes that first leap of faith to take that chance to take the first trip. And then, as you can see from all of us, we have the travel bug big time. So once you take the first one, you can't really stop. So I can definitely relate to that. And especially with what you said, since, so I'm an only child. And so when I went on I wouldn't say this last trip was my first solo, but it was my first long-term solo trip. Traveling for 4 months is a long time. And so my mom was really worried. And the rationale I gave her was, think about all of the kids who, in North America especially, once you graduate from high school, the thing is to go backpacking in Europe for a little bit. And you do that when you're 18. So I said, Mom, I have 10 years on those kids. I have work experience. I was a flight attendant. I've traveled the world already. I'm going to be okay. I'm financially responsible. I'm going to make good decisions. So I was like, I don't think you need to worry about me. She's like, please still text me every day, so I know you're alive. And so that's just what I had to do. But it's just taking your first trip is always like, the big trip is, yeah, that big leap of faith for you and your friends and family, right? Everyone's got to be on board to try to support you through it. So it's a fun experience. Let's talk a little bit how I want to jump to actually a piece of advice that either you would give or someone gave you when you think about solo travel. And I'm going to start with Jade here.
I'm sorry, need some time to think. I'll pass the mic to someone else first.
Yeah, if someone has an answer, feel free.
I mean, for their first solo travel, I would say, I mean, it's great to do research, honestly, just to see like where you're gonna stay, where like the nearest places that you might want to commute to, especially what's the best transportation system in that city. For me, like I really wanted to seek adventure and really explore and just be like lost and in a good way and not feel upset that I didn't, make certain things on time or things like that. Because I really felt like my first solo travel, the goal was to really do self-care and to really take the time to get to know something without doing a bunch of like research and stuff ahead. So, but ideally, my advice would be for anyone who wants to explore a new city and a new country, especially to do some research, to go on communities where there are those people are already in the community and asking them like, what's the best way to get to XYZ, or what's like a good place to eat? What are some things I need to know? Because there's a lot of moments where, because I grew up in Bangkok, people might say like, oh yeah, the city's like really, everyone's gonna mug you and things like that. I personally didn't experience that. Of course, this is like 10 years ago when I was still living there. But I don't know how things are now. But in those moments, it's kind of like whatever people say online isn't always true. But it's good to still have that in like your back of your mind, like in case that happens. Because my friend told me that when he went to Paris, somebody was like gonna rob his phone, like his iPhone. So he was like, oh, make sure you put your phone away and things like that. And I never thought that would happen in Paris, but that was his precaution. So it was like that mental note that I had for myself if I ever went to Paris. So those are things like I would advise on, kind of like take things as grain of salt and really test that for yourself as you are going into that new city, and have those like just in like the back of your mind for your first solo travel, just to be safe. And also having, contact with your Airbnb if you're staying there, like your host, like in case something happens to you, you're able to, reach to them and get help. I think that's very important, especially as a solo traveler.
Absolutely. I think there's always a baseline of safety you should keep in mind in any country or city you visit. Even in your own hometowns, I'm sure like crime can happen. So you need to be careful wherever you are, but especially in a foreign place, have a baseline of safety in the back of your mind. But then, like you said, take everything with a grain of salt, because I've been to many places now that people were like, oh no, you're a solo female traveler, you should not go alone. And I was like, I think if I'm just really, situationally aware, if I'm being careful, I want to go see for myself, right? and you're resourceful and you're smart. You know how to get yourself out of certain situations. So you just got to try sometimes, right? See for yourself, because sometimes people who give you advice are giving you advice from hearsay. They've never experienced it themselves, but they're just telling you stories that they've heard from other people. So it's important to keep that in mind as well. I'm seeing now, Jade, you're ready to share your advice.
Yes, thank you so much, Sin. Those were some really great and solid advice, especially on preparing. So just wanted to add a few more things to that is, I would say number one, just do it. If you're planning your first solo travel, or even like your first solo travel trip and it's been a few years, you still need some courage to do it. So just do it. We're lucky that this community exists, and there are other travel communities too. So definitely leverage this platform. And the reason I say just do it is because if we're lucky, we'll probably live to 75 or whatever the standard average life expectancy is. And you could afford in this life to take more risks, to love more, to do things that bring you joy, to make you feel alive. And you may not find those things until you go and live this dream of yours to do your solo travel trip. And so there is nothing to lose by spending XYZ days, weeks, or months to go pursue this dream. Your life, your existing life right now, or whatever identity you're attached to, you can come back to that whenever you want. And so just let yourself be open to transformation and be open to this gift that you're giving yourself. Number two, I would say, is be intentional. And I encourage everyone to incorporate some type of spirituality in your travel. So before I go on a trip, or even on the plane ride there, I ask myself these questions. You can ask for yourself, or you can even do this if you're traveling with a partner or someone else. And you ask yourself, what's the best thing that can happen to me on this trip? What's the best possible things that I can dream of? Is it I meet one of my best friends ever, that's going to be my best friend for life? Or is it that I feel reinvigorated about life? I find purpose. I taste the best stinky tofu, or whatever dish you want to eat. And what's the best thing that can happen to you? And also ask yourself, what do you need to let go of right now in order to manifest those things? So incorporate some type of spirituality into your trip to make it intentional, because solo travel and any travel isn't about escaping your life, but it's about enriching it further. The last one is do what prep work works for you. You know, some trips you have to do extensive research to feel good, to feel peace when you're traveling. And for those, you need templates. I'm going to be sharing some of the templates that I'll be using that I have used on Namaste to Ni Hao, just to help other people plan their trips. But for other trips, you actually only need to spend 1 hour researching a few spots that you want to hit. The best ice cream spot, the best place to buy local perfume or whatever. And so some trips you just need to go on a whim and just follow your nose or your heart. All right, thank you.
Thank you for sharing. I will touch a little bit more on that piece of courage that you talked about at the beginning, and I'll offer a perspective that really helped me as I was planning my last lengthier trip. I planned my trip originally for 3 months. Then as I planned, I realized there's too much world to see. I'm going to need to make it 4 months at least. And when I had that realization, I was really nervous because I thought about, okay, what does this look like on this career gap on my resume? What does it look like for me to come back to Vancouver after this? Will it be difficult for me to find work? And all these, I guess, real life factors that I was thinking about. However, the perspective I started to adopt was, I'm going to live on this planet till about 90, I hope. What is 4 months out of this 90 years on this planet? It's going to be a blip. It's going to be a blip in time for me. And in the meantime, after those 4 months, I'm going to make all these core memories. I'm going to meet wonderful people. I'm going to have these wonderful experiences that are going to change who I am. And nobody's ever gone on a trip and come back and said, I really regret spending 4 months traveling Europe. So that is my little piece of, push, the little perspective change to help you. If you feel like 4 months is not that long, guys, you could do a year, you could do 5 years like Kristen. It is not that much. You can keep going. But Kristen, you've been sitting there. Have you thought about some advice you'd like to share?
Yeah, actually, damn, lots of advice because I feel like a grandma at this point when it comes to like, when you mentor baby travelers, and it's amazing though, to see how much we're still trying to travel here and how much more women want to travel. But I think that my biggest advice or the words I want to impart, whether it's your first time or whether it's like the nth time that you're solo traveling, is that to travel solo, especially as a woman, is the greatest act of self-love. And I say it's like very firmly because, when you travel alone, when you are able to go away or veer away from the expectations of society from women to have a child, to get married, expectations with career, when you're able to make that first step, as what we were talking about a while ago, to just go out there, take risks, see the world, there is some sort of power in it. And being a solo traveler allows you to dictate, what you want to eat, where you're going to rest your head in the night, right? Where are you going to go? What sites are you going to see? It gives you this complete autonomy, and it will teach you a lot of things that sometimes the only friend that you ever need is yourself. And sometimes the bestest person you can have by your side is you. And there is nothing wrong with that. And sometimes, you can change too. Like I didn't start out as like a purpose-filled traveler. I was just like some young teenager looking to backpack Southeast Asia and get drunk on like those buckets in Thailand, right? That was me before. But each year that I grew as a traveler, I have a new purpose. So I started looking for happiness. Then I started looking for human connections with local people, immersing in different cultures. I come out of a country like a local. And after seeing that kindness, I saw that I was meant to pass this on. And so comes my volunteer work right now. And I think that it's an act of power and self-love, and that you owe yourself this act of power and self-love, because sometimes it's all you need to do to be able to find out what motivates you, what pushes you. And people will say all the bad things. Remember that. Guys will hit on you. People will tell you that you shouldn't be traveling alone as a woman, and your family might not support you. You'll get marriage proposals. I got 17 in Central Asia. That was horrific. But at the end of the day, you have to remind yourself that this is for you. You're not doing it for them. You're doing it for your freedom, for your autonomy, for the things you need to learn in life, and for the things yet to come. And just trust the process. You will have a lot of changes along the way. You might be a budget backpacker now, and then you might turn into a luxury traveler next, right? You might enjoy, moving fast from one country to another, right? And the next you might love this slow mad lifestyle, right? But when you do things for yourself because you're doing it for you, you do it with such a passion that it's impossible to fail. And I guarantee that. So do it with a passion, travel solo with a passion, and just look at it as an act of power and look at it as an act of love for you. So that's my advice.
I love that. Thank you, Kristen. I feel like I thought about this a lot recently. We should reclaim the word selfish because there's a negative connotation with the word selfish and being selfish. However, I think there is this trend, this movement that selfishness can also mean self-care, self-love, being passionate about yourself and what you want, what motivates you. And I think we should totally be selfish, do the solo travel, right? Do it for you, because why do it for anyone else? You've got to take care of you, right? So that's amazing. We've been talking a lot about how much we love travel. I would love to hear if anyone has faced travel burnout at all. I'm curious if you've gotten to that point, or you're feeling like really homesick, or Kirsten, you're ready. You're ready. Tell us.
Like 5 years. I'm just like laughing. I'm so sorry. It was really like, it was funny. I'm so sorry. So yeah, for sure. I've been on the road for more than 5 years, abroad. So I traveled for a year in my homeland. So my total travel time is 6 years. I haven't been home since. I have stayed on the road despite getting a surgery abroad, losing my passport, getting robbed, surviving some sexual attempts and stuff like that. You know, we're women, it happens. It doesn't have to. And it, just what I mean. COVID, I decided to stay. War in Ukraine, I didn't decide to go home. Yes, of course, I feel tired sometimes. I feel like sometimes, I just need to rest, recuperate. That's what I have the winters for, Like I don't travel in the winter to work hard, save money for the next trips, and to plan and to find something worthwhile outside of travel. Because I think that, when you've been traveling for a long time, one of the things that you struggle with was that, okay, I traveled, this is my entire life, especially when you're doing it full time. Like outside of travel, what am I, right? So that's one of the things I had to figure out. I apparently enjoy a lot of music, arts. I'm like a very creative person. So I found that. But to answer the question of homesickness, and I really like this because like Jade asked me a while ago, like, but where is home for you? Like earlier on, I remember that. And I told her home is nowhere and everywhere. And that's why I don't think I feel homesick, because I find families everywhere I go. I find friends, I find community. And as I was like telling you a while ago, the act of self-love, I love myself too much. And I love this dream too much. It's like, you have a lot of things that you can die for, but a few things that you can kill for. And this is my kill for. I love my life. I love being able to be free, to decide what I want to be, to reinvent myself every day, and to be able to extend that love to the people around me and to the causes that I support. And so I think sometimes, like, yes, it's gonna be a struggle. I've had my lonely moments. I've had moments where I wish I would go home. When a bomb drops 80 meters from your house, you would want to go home for sure. But it's just, if you believe in something, and if you think this thing makes you happy, if it makes you feel alive, how many people in the world have you seen who can say to themselves like, hey, I feel so alive, I feel so happy? And we're all travelers here. We've met our like groups of people. How many people can say the same? Not a lot. And for me, like, home maybe isn't a place. It's not even people, but it's in me. Sometimes it's not even the road. And so this is my way of like combating homesickness, to be able to find the home within me, to be able to be comfortable with my own company, to be able to still believe in the dream that I've had, because my dream is to hike and hitchhike the world. It's going to take a very long time. And my dream is to build a platform through my blog that's able to help all of these communities. And I think that, it harks back to what I said about passion. When you feel passionate about something, you would give all of your heart to it. And for me, that was just it. You get food from home, you get calls from home, you meet somebody from your homeland and speak in your own language. But at the end of the day, home should be inside of you, not a place, not a face, but here, just here.
Thank you. I was going to say, finding home within yourself is probably one of the hardest things to do, but one of the most important things to do. Because like you said, especially solo traveling, oftentimes you are your own best friend, you are your own travel buddy, you are doing everything by yourself, and it's really, really important that you know yourself and you know what you want and you know what's driving you to do the things you're doing. And so to be able to find a place of home within yourself is so, so special and so important. Did anyone else want to touch on if they faced burnout or homesickness while traveling?
Yeah, so I would say from my own experience, the longest I solo traveled was 6 months. And to avoid burnouts, I would say I stayed in a city like at least a month so I could actually, do my job as well as like plan certain places to visit. So I prioritize like top 10 things to do in that city. And then taking breaks like over the weekend, every other weekend, or doing it on Friday nights or Thursday nights instead of like continuous, just so that I don't, get tired and then hate traveling and then go end up, just quitting and going back home. So I had that motivation of like, okay, I'm going to rent this place for a month and these are all the things I'm going to do. And it's a top 10. If I don't make it, I try to do the top 5 and then I just kind of move on. And just so I like avoid burnouts that way. So that's been quite helpful. I would say it's also like very like sometimes like you do have FOMO. I don't know if you guys feel that way. You're just like, oh, I need to do this thing because I'm here in the city once in a lifetime. But I always remind myself that I can always come back so I don't feel the burnout and I don't push myself to the point where, I'm tired, I can't be productive at work, or just even in general, like really don't want to not like traveling anymore.
Thank you, Cindy. Yeah, I think that's a great point about like slow travel, which I think is also something that's becoming more popular, let's say, but we all know that person who plans a trip with an itinerary packed 9 to 5 every day with every half hour planned to the T with exactly where they want to eat, exactly where they want to be at exactly what time. And I think when you first start traveling, that is often how you plan because it makes you feel secure to have that control. And it comes with time and experience traveling to kind of let go of those reins and just see, maybe today I'll just wander this neighborhood for a few hours and I'll stumble onto a cafe and sit for a little while. And then maybe I'll chat with the person next to me at the cafe. Maybe we'll become friends and maybe I'll bring a book. And you just kind of let your plans make themselves. But I have to say that comes with experience. You need to build up to that. So I get why there are very planned travelers, but that also means I think if you have the luxury of time to plan for a longer duration, the advice given to me was if you can afford to add one more day in each city, just one more day, it gives you a little bit of breathing room, right? To really explore and get to know it. And so whether it's a day or a month that you can give to this city, you'll feel more like you have given it the time you need to really get to know it.
Awesome.
Did you have a bit of burnout or homesickness while traveling?
Yeah, really love the tips so far from the 3 of you. I love what y'all said about finding home inside of you as you travel and then building time to rest, slow travel, +1 to all of that. I would say, for me, I would say to gauge how you're feeling. I have faced travel burnout. I was traveling in Italy and Portugal for 2 months, and there were some times where I was like, oh man, I really miss good Asian food or Mexican food, or like spicy food, or pieces that reminded me of home. And then sometimes I would feel like I really love this place, but I wish I could share this with this person that I love or this friend. So that's awesome. So, sorry, I was saying that's awesome to the folks in the chat. So there were times where I wish this, and then I would do small things to to pivot. Like one, I would say, hey, it's a good thing I'm feeling this emotion. It means that this person is important to me, or it means that I want to be able to share this with other people. So it's one of the things that actually I listened to my emotion, my feeling, and I found ways that where I was able to share that experience with my husband or good friends, or it's also one of the reasons why I'm launching a blog soon, so that I'll be able to share it with other people. And then sometimes I'll find a piece of home where I found randomly, I was feeling homesick in Algarve, Portugal, and I found this Italian Indian restaurant with a multicultural couple from India, Kenya, and Italy. And they made the best homemade Italian and Indian food. And just walked in, struck up a conversation, went back 4 times that week. And now they're lifelong friends. So when you're facing travel burnout, listen to those emotions, those feelings, they're gifts, and then find little ways where you can feel a piece of home. And remember, as Tan was saying earlier, you're reinventing yourself every day. So that also means that you're reinventing what home means to you. All right, that's my little tidbit.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think Justine lost her mic. But I was curious, like, how do you guys meet like new people when you travel? Because everyone always asks, like, hey, Sin, isn't it lonely when you travel by yourself? And I never felt that, because I always met people in community events, farmers markets, some sort of crafts and fair, museums. And I think I really enjoyed that. Like, oh, I'll make new friends along the way. But for others, I think they, like, some friends ask me, they don't really get how I'm not lonely. And I know what Ten said about finding, your own ground, being grounded and finding your own home matters. But for those who, have that fear, what would you guys like, how do you meet people to not stay, or like, how do you not try to, feel lonely when you solo travel?
I can go.
Go for it.
I hitchhike. It's for me. So I don't know if any of you can relate to this, but my personality is a little bit different from like solo travelers. The first is because I always approach a country to learn. When my travel style is not like top 10 best places to go to, but more like, what can I learn from the people here? One of the things that I do is I learn a new skill in every country that I go to. So you would find me mostly hanging out with local people, even though we don't understand each other, and that's where it starts. Believe it or not, I learned how to speak like Russian or Ukrainian just by listening to people. And it's because I approach a country without like any prejudice, any stereotype, and I open myself up to experience. There is my full name in my blog is Kirsten Chan. Kaludkaran in Filipino means being able to go anywhere and saying yes to everything. So I have this mentality of saying yes, and that leads me to meeting all of these lovely people, and from getting adopted by families on the road who see me hiking with my backpack, or I will tell you, this Myanmar village in the mountains in the Kaya region, not on the map at all, but they took me in, and we celebrated their annual mountain festival with the tribes, the Karen women who were originally from Myanmar. I was adopted by monks, where I spent my 22nd birthday. I learned about Buddhism and spirituality. That $1 story, I was with like Tibetan nomads. I was a cowgirl in Tibet. And by opening myself up to these experiences with local people, it has taught me not only pieces of their culture, but the fact that we are in fact more alike than we are different. We are all humans. We just want to be loved, want to have good health, want to be safe. We want to have our basic needs met. And by having this perspective, it has allowed me to not be afraid to strike a conversation with like the person next to me, because this person is alike. We just have a different color of skin, right? And you know, with all of the things that we see online and in the media, right? It's like, nah, they're Muslim, they're different, they're not like peace-loving people or what. It's not true. People are kind, and most often not, they will like welcome you into their homes. I walked 110 kilometers of the Wakhan corridor in Tajikistan, where the embassy told me not to go because it was Tajikistan and Afghanistan, you know. But there was so much goodness there. It was my favorite spot in Central Asia. And I think that's the main motivator for me, main reason why I can meet people. But the thing also for me is that I'm not very, like, I don't meet a lot of travelers. So I intentionally do this because I come to a country, again, from a learning perspective. I do not come here to meet somebody who's Filipino. I can meet that person in my own country, right? Doesn't make sense. And I think it just, it boils down to your preference, right? Who do you want to hang out with? What kind of group do you want to be with? If you're a mountaineer, of course you will want to be with like your fellow mountaineering people, right? If you're a digital nomad, you might want to go to co-working spaces and hang out with fellow remote workers, right? If you want to actively look for love, you know, like a romance, you might go on a dating app, right? You know, it depends what you're looking for. And I want to emphasize on that because not everybody has the same goals for travel. Not everybody has the same way to meet people. Like I do my hostels, I do like the tours with travelers, but I'm just not that interested in meeting them because that's not my goal. So I think for people who want to meet people, to not be quote unquote lonely, right? What they say when it comes to traveling, to find some company is first be comfortable with your own companionship. Second, determine your goals for your travel. Who do you want to meet? Where do you want to go? You're not going to go to a club if you want like some sober conversation, that's for sure. And the third is just be open-minded. We just have different things like hair color, skin, religion, language. But at the end, the core is made up of these things. We just want to be healthy, happy. We want to be with our loved ones. We want our dreams fulfilled. And it doesn't matter wherever you're from or whatever God you believe in, just be open about that and embrace like the similarities more than the differences. So yeah, that's my advice.
Yeah, that was so beautiful. Just kind of wanted to add, when I went to Austria for work and also to do some nomading because we had a ton of vacation days. I met this guy who was a sheep herder, and Austria is like very beautiful. It's super peaceful, especially near the Swiss border. It really is like what the storybooks are. Everyone's like very calm in the slowness, and that sheep herder was like, so he told me he used to work in America, and he was doing some corporate job and it was really like mentally draining him. So he just left all of that and then went to Austria to do the whole sheep herding. And it was a job that he really enjoyed. He's like, oh, I feel so at peace. And it was so funny to kind of meet that person and hear that experience, because I was like, wow, there's a lot of people who are really trying to find themselves, who are really trying to understand, you know, what is their purpose in life, and, you know, having that opportunity even just to do that work brought him so much joy that he felt like he'd never experienced before in America. I felt like that was a really big learning for me. And, you know, for him to make it like his ends meet, because you know how we are always told like, oh, are you financially secure? I hate that question. I ask myself that every day. And, you know, there's those moments where, you know, you don't even need to think about that because all you needed to do was eat, sleep, and you know, be able to be healthy to do that again every day. So it was so refreshing because I kind of related that picture when you shared 10 about your experience in Shan state in Myanmar, because I could totally see that like zenness that everyone carries around and just living day by day and not feeling so worried about 10 years or 5 years. I wish I was a bit more present like that. I think like every time I go back home to Southeast Asia, specifically to Myanmar, and go to those temples, I see that peacefulness in people and just being so humble with what they already have and making it work versus, you know, planning their whole like years like we're taught to here in America.
Awesome. Amazing, amazing advice and stories, Sint and Ten. I would like to add one more, which I love what y'all said about striking conversations with strangers, and also you gave different advice based on what people would want as well. In the sheep herding story, that is powerful. It reminded me of my favorite book, The Alchemist, with the sheep herder. For me, I would say that there are different ways, in addition to what folks have shared. I really love to sign up for Airbnb experiences if I don't have a friend in the city, because with Airbnb experiences, you get to experience the city authentically through a local, and a local that has created a business on that platform. You can meet new friends while learning the craft of how to take photography or how to create pasta. I've taken a course on how do you train a miniature horse, or how do you take care of a miniature horse in Hawaii. And I've done so many really cool activities that I would have never done if I had and met so many amazing people from around the world through Airbnb experiences. I jumped off cliffs through cliff jumping experiences throughout Portugal, or jumping off of rivers to explore the mountains through jumping off of the cliffs and navigating the rivers. And it's a way for you to travel and make friends of all ages at the same time. Now, if you have a friend in that city, then I would say connect with that friend. Maybe it's someone that you studied abroad with 10 years ago, or maybe it's someone that you met through Asian Wonder Woman, or it's a good friend, but you just haven't reconnected. See if you can ask them, hey, can you take me to 3 of your favorite spots? This is what I'm hoping or open to experience it. And you'll be surprised. I went to Hyderabad, India, and my friends KP and Apurva, they took me to this super fancy restaurant that was out of this world. It looked like a restaurant of the future. And my other friend in Vancouver took me to some of the most beautiful spots in Canada that I would have never gone by myself. So I would say that if you already have a friend there, then try reaching out. But you should always be open, like my fellow travel lovers were sharing. You should always be open, because at the end of the day, we all just want to be accepted. We want to be happy. We want to feel a connection to someone else. So be open to hearing what other people's story is, because everybody has a story, and you never know which one is going to inspire you, or who your story is going to inspire. So just be open to those conversations and strike up conversations with strangers.
Thank you, Jade. I was just making sure. I think my Audio wasn't working for a little bit, but everyone can hear me. Yes. Okay, wonderful. That is our time today. Thank you so, so, so much for all three of you for being here, for sharing your time with us, sharing your experiences. We are all so, so grateful because we are learning from each other and building this community. So I would be remiss to not mention, this is a great place for you to start, a great community for you to join. Asian Wander Women, you can connect with women who have different travel goals, different experiences, different life experiences, travel experiences that you can learn from and grow from. So it's a great way for you to meet other people, get resources, and yeah, it's a great place to start if you're thinking about traveling or looking to build community and meet new people, especially in this more global world that we live in. So thank you again for joining us, and we will see you all at the next meeting, at the next event.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. Nice meeting everyone. Stay safe.
Yes,
Thank you,
stay safe. Happy
everyone.
New Year.
Please, let's stay in touch.
Yes.